So I've been doing a lot of thinking about one specific comment that somebody left and wondering if we're all slowly and inadvertently damaging our comics. If you want to know what I'm talking about and a way that we can stop doing it, stick around. Oh, welcome back, family. Thank you so much for joining again. About a week and a half ago, I made a video about how to pick out the best collection, best condition books when you go to the store or shows or whatever, and how to try to sort through and pick the best ones, and how to store them and take care of them. And one comment, it stuck in my head. It really has. It's from Bub's Comic, and he said that I recommend using resealable bags so this way you don't have the tape. And he said that he used to use resealable bags, and he no longer does that because he found that it damages the book in stacks over a period of time. It leaves an imprint. And I really started thinking about it and putting it together with, if you ever watch Reggie Collects, he has a 100,000 comic collection. Yes, you did hear that correctly. A 100,000 comic collection and a very supportive wife, because I don't think I could get away with that. But as he goes through these boxes, the short boxes, and it's a segment that it's the perfect name, okay? Digging through my shorts, okay? And what treasures I can find. The person who had the collection before, he took specific steps, and I think it's to eliminate this problem, and CGC kind of verified it. Now, let me show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so what I did was I pulled out one of my boxes, and I'm showing you this is the way that the majority of us keep our bags and boards inside the box. Okay? Now here's the problem. When you take one of these books, okay? And I use a resealable, and even if you just have tape, okay? Tape has a certain level of thickness to it. And, the resealable has this, it's kind of like a melted gummy bear type of texture on it, but it does have a line. You can feel it as you run your finger across it. And what's actually happening as whether you put, if you have your books this way or this way, it doesn't really matter because the force of the book on top of it, this line is now going to be pressed onto here. Even if you have your books standing up, they're still going to be at least leaning one way or the other. They're never perfectly perpendicular. And whether it's the tape that you have here or the gummy surface that's here, this difference in thickness, even just the thickness of the plastic here, where it ends, goes from one thickness to the other, will then be pressing against the cover of this book. And, as you saw from one of my CGC submissions, I got knocked down for pebbling, which is basically the silicone sheet that I have in my press. It has a very fine texture to it, and it left little tiny, barely seeable by the naked eye, dots on the cover. So they are looking for it. These are things that will detract from your grade. So have you ever watched a video for how to... CGC wants you to submit, and when you join, you get a little box for your first submission, and it includes the resealable bags, okay? Because they would prefer that you use them. But anytime you submit, sorry, I had a bad day at work yesterday with a lot of grease. I've been trying so hard to scrub it off. As you are submitting these books, what they ask you to do when you're submitting them is put front to back. To front to back. And what does this do? This prevents the front of the book from making any contact with this back edge. Okay? Now you're going to have your clean cardboard against, your flat cardboard against it. And then you're going to have your flat comic book against a flat comic book. Okay? This is taking all of this out of the equation. When Reggie went through goes through his collection and digging through my shorts, a lot of these books that he opens up, the collector prior stored his books in the box, front to back to front to back. Basically, every other book is turned around. So what he's doing in that instance is duplicating those exact same scenario. Now, the one thing that it's annoying to us, I guess you would say, is that you no longer can go through your books and see every single one. Yes, but don't we already know in our heads pretty good what the inventory is? And if there's one that we're like, wait, I had number 3 and then it's number 6, did I have 4 or 5 or duplicates? You take it out, you look at it. Or what's even better is you can stand from the side and just tilt your head a little bit as you look. So yeah, I can still see this. Sorry. There. I can see this one, I can see this one, I can see this one, I can see this one. We just have to change the way that we look at these books. And I think that it's very important to store comics in this fashion. Now, the pro is that it will prevent this possible damage from happening. The con is, since we are not going completely uniform, it may decrease the amount of books that we can put into a box. You may go from, say, 125, 130 books in a box down to, drop 5 or 10 books. To me, I'd rather lose 3%, 4% of my storage capacity and be able to keep my books in absolute pristine condition. I cannot speak for somebody like Reggie with 100,000 comics because, decreasing storage capacity could mean he has to add another 20, 30, 40 short boxes. I mean, that's a big ask, and space and everything else. So like I just said, the long-term effects of damage from any of the things that we're using to protect the books have they really been studied? Are there any ways of comparing a book that was stored back to front with the exact same book that was stored the way that we conventionally do it? I mean, we're so used to seeing all the books specifically one right after the other, after the other, after the other, because this is the way we grew up, going to comic book stores. And their, intention was to be able to buy these, put them into bags and boards and sell them as quick as possible, turn over their inventory. When the bags and the boards first came out, I don't think anybody knew what could be done to a book after 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. And these are the things, if we're looking at these as long-term investments, that we have to think about. It's just like, trading out older slabbed books. A lot of people say after 5 or 10 years, you should have a book reholdered because of the atmosphere that was locked in there and Newton rings and everything else that can be going on. It should still be taken out. I mean, even the Declaration of Independence is taken out and, checked from time to time. Make it's kept in an inert gas. I don't think we have xenon in here. But what are your thoughts about this? Do you think that, is this something that you already knew? Is this something that you think that I'm crazy and I'm coming to an unreasonable, irrational decision? Is this something that you're planning on trying out yourself? If you agree with this philosophy, I urge you that this video, above all others, to share with your friends, okay? Just send them the link and say, look, this is something that we got to look into if we want to keep these books for a long time. We may be looking at books that, everybody collects now, and 5 years, 10 years. There's tons of ones with tape marks, and, grading is only going to get stricter as we go. Their methods of examining and magnifying are only going to get stricter. So we have to be stricter in the way that we keep them. I want to thank you so much for joining. I hope you found this information useful. I'm trying to keep myself talking a lot slower than I did during the unboxing video. Wow, I could not believe how quickly how excited I was. But the great thing about that is, I did have a great unboxing. And I'm going to give a little side note here. When I first started watching The Boy Who Had 7, Matt, he put out a series of videos of his top 100 9.8s. And I looked, I'm like, I can't even do a top 10. I only own 9. Well, I'm slowly creeping up, and thanks to my last submission, I'm now up to 37. So, give me another year or so, and I'll be able to do a top 100, which means I'll take one book out of my collection, and that's the... But, yeah, I'm really trying to build my collection. It's people like Reggie and JP and Skeff and Matt and seeing their collection and seeing their passion for the hobby that fuels mine, always keeps me fresh in it. I don't get burned out, as Bueller was asking in his poll question. Do we get burned out from comics? I don't. Okay, I literally drive my coworkers crazy by talking about it all the time. And to them, if they happen to be watching this, first off, that means you had too much to drink, so stop. And two, thank you guys again. Again, if you like this video, please, I urge you to hit the like button, subscribe, click on notifications, and again, this particular video especially, share this. Let's get this information out to as many of our friends and comic family, as we can. And, well, I had fun making this because I felt like I was sharing something which had been shared with me. And again, Bubs Comics, if you're watching this, thank you again. I appreciate the little worm that you put in my brain that made me think about all this, and I'm taking what you said to heart, and I'm going to be redoing all my boxes, and hopefully you guys agree and do the same. Until such time, though, I'm out.